What are closing costs and who's responsible for paying them? Let's talk about it. So, closing costs is essentially the amount of money that's due at the closing table. Now, a buyer has closing costs, and then sellers also have closing costs as well. Now, let's talk about who's responsible for paying them first, okay? So, everyone is responsible for paying their own closing costs at minimum, okay? Now, no one is legally liable to pay your closing costs unless you guys come to an agreement that that is going to be the case. For example, let's say you are a buyer buying a property and you and the seller make an arrangement for the seller to give you a $5,000 closing cost credit. In that case, the seller is going to give you the $5,000 at the closing table, but that's $5,000 is simply going to be reduced from the total amount that you owe. So, for example, if your lender tells you that you need to bring 9,000 to the closing table, and the seller says I'm going to give you 5,000, then that means you're going to be 9 - 5, and only about $4,000 or so is going to be due from you. The same is true on the selling side. You don't see this too often, but there are buyers that sometimes want a house so badly, they will pay the seller's closing costs. Okay. So we most definitely have seen that, many of times, usually with investors trying to get a house or there's high competition. So there are some ways to do that as well. Now, closing costs totally is going to come down to a couple different things. One is going to be your down payment. If you're a buyer, it's going to be your down payment, your title fees, your attorney's fees. There may be a credit report fee that's added to that. There may be an appraisal added to that as well. And those are your most common fees. There's also some other fees as well too. Transfer taxes, transfer stamps, final water bills. There's a lot of small things that could most definitely be into that. But the lender and the attorney will give you the full breakdown of what the lender needs for you to pay in order to close your loan. Now, if you're a seller on the other side, it's most definitely going to be about the same things. But with the seller actually has to go actually do some things. They have to go pay that final water bill. They have to go get that transfer stamp in some cases from their municipality or their village or, their village hall, whatever the setup is, especially if they're like, not if they're in a certain city or if they're in a certain suburb, there's going to be processes that they must follow in order to actually sell that home. In some cases, there's even what you call a pre-sale inspection or post-sale inspection. There's a lot of different names for it, but that's essentially that where that home is, the village or county or city or whatever. Usually it's a village or some type of suburb or some sort, but wherever they live, sometimes they want them to do what they call a pre-sale or post-sale inspection. It just simply means that, hey, before you sell this house, we need to come in and make sure that you haven't done something like some type of construction that you didn't do right. We need to see the condition of the home because this is our opportunity to get some things done before this new owner comes in. And so in most cases, they'll either have the seller do it and they have to, do it by a certain time in order just to sell the home. In some cases, the seller is allowed to transfer that responsibility over to the buyer. And then the buyer will have a certain amount of time in most cases to get that work done. And some villages actually ask for some type of money up front to hold as a deposit to make sure that that type of things get done as well. Okay. But no one is legally obligated to pay your specific closing costs outside of you. But there are many ways that you can most definitely bring that down. Down payment assistance programs that are available, as I mentioned, seller credits, lending credits as well too. So there's and you could also get a gift from a friend or family member as well too. And now with the gift, there's a little bit more back end things that's going to be needed. But that the short version is that's when someone gives you money towards your closing costs, and the lender has to give that stamp of approval as well. If you like this video, you're most definitely going to like the next one. I'll see you there.